Hello and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday, the 10th of August 2026, brought to you by our partners at SEKO, your no-nonsense end-to-end logistics partner. Always delighted to have their support. It's Gary here again. I am now back from Berlin, from an absolutely fantastic time in Berlin, I have to say. And you know what? Things took a turn for the worse. Oh my God, when I was away, that was two very, very rough performances, or certainly one very rough performance and two very rough results for our wonderful team, or for our wonderful club. Maybe I'll leave the team part out of this. I'll get to the game segment in a wee bit here, but you know what? This has just got that familiar feel to it, doesn't it? You know, with that beginning, it's got like the... what would you say? The Gio, Beale, Clement, Martin familiarity to it, just when you get off to a rough start and then you just don't seem to be able to recover. I mean, that's 2 games to the league campaign in, and we are 5 points behind already. It's the exact same. It's maybe even worse than some of the previous seasons. I'm sure somebody could tell me whether that's the case or not, but to have just 1 point from 2 games, one of the games being at home at the beginning of the season, regardless of who the opposition is just not good enough. It's nowhere near good enough, and every single one of the managers comes in and says we need to rebuild and win at the same time, and neither of these folks have managed to do that. They've certainly not managed to do it in a way that's going to be meaningful for us. And you know what I start to think about? Derek McInnes had us a bit excited. I think the difference with him is that he says it like it is. You know, he speaks like us, you know, and sometimes I don't overly like that 100%, but like, you know, I do like the candor. I do like the honesty that he shows. For example, after yesterday's game, saying it wasn't as bad as it's been, but I know people won't see that because of the result. You know, that's a kind of profound thing to be able to say. But you know, when you think about things that are going on in the world right now in terms of world football, you've got 2 guys that are under immense pressure. You've got Infantino from FIFA and you've got Derek McInnes at Rangers. And I could imagine Infantino looking over at Ibrox and saying, oof, man, I'd rather be in my shoes than be in your shoes, mate, because you're having a hell of a time of it. Everything that he is trying is not working out. There's an influx of players. It seems like he doesn't really know what he's doing with each of the players, trying a bunch of things that don't really make a whole bunch of sense to us, specifically yesterday in terms of the right back situation or position. And it's just not working, is it? It's just one of these times where we're in a situation where we are playing catch up. And the key for me is that there doesn't seem to be any specific signs that it's going to get any better anytime soon. And we've got 2 big games coming up here, essentially 2 knockout games coming up in terms of the European qualifier, the Europa League qualifier, 3rd round, second leg tie, and the knockout game, the Premier Cup sports game, League Cup game against St Mirren on the weekend. And that could be that could be one of these things where you just don't recover from that. You're in a situation where nothing is going to be able to get you out of that hole, and that's a tough spot to be in. And I just don't know that, well, I do know that we haven't seen anything from anyone, by the way, including Derek McInnes, that gives us that opportunity to go, you know what, I see the signs, I see what he's trying, I see what the team are trying to do. We've just had a wee bit of bad luck, and I'll get to the bad luck part because we haven't had a share of good luck, that's for sure, in some of the games thus far. And it's just getting to a spot where you need to go and win the games. The players know that. The management team knows that. But you're in a situation where how do you actually, you prepare, you tell the guys what needs to happen, you give them the game plan, you support them as much as you can, they cross the white line, they do what they do, you make some adjustments at half time, and then we'll see what the second half looks like. But, I don't know. One of the things I saw yesterday, I was away for the week. So when you're away for the week, even though I was back on more of a closer time zone to the UK, I wasn't really, I was busy every day kind of doing touristy stuff. And what it gave me an opportunity was to kind of unplug a wee bit. But one thing I did see, I think it was primarily yesterday, I didn't have Wi-Fi on the plane on the way home, so I didn't have any opportunity to at least even just keep on top of it by text. So when I landed, I had over 100 messages combined over a couple of group chats, and I said to Leo, there's no chance we've won that game then. And he says, oh, I don't know, you never know. And I checked the score, and I was like, nope, there you go. That's that. But what I did see online was that people starting to talk about the appointment of Derek McInnes. And I'm not going to say whether Derek McInnes was a good or a bad appointment. We were quite excited about it a couple of weeks ago, and now we're in the depths of despair because he hasn't done what he should have done in the 3 competitive games that he's had so far. And one of the things, the reason I mention this is one of the things that was said was basically along the lines of he's never won anything or never won anything material. I don't know his actual win record, but the expectations of Rangers is different. We know that. How many managers have we had that have come in that have won stuff before and have a proven track record? I think about Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. I think about Philippe Clement, and they weren't successful with us. Yes, Philippe Clement won the League Cup, and Giovanni, took us to second place in the league, which seems to be our spot apart from last season, and took us to the Europa League final, which we lost. Won the Scottish Cup, of course, as well. So we're looking for someone that can win us the league title. And I kind of think about, well, who has come in and really had a genuine winning record that you say, this is a real deal? Both of those guys, I was convinced, well, maybe not convinced. I was very hopeful that they were going to give us a good opportunity to succeed. And we had a wee bit of success. We had some silverware, but not enough. And that's why they're not with us anymore. And why we don't, we don't, what would you say? Why we don't revere them just yet? Maybe Gio a wee bit different because of the run we had in Europe. But Derek McInnes has had a lot of track record, especially in Scottish football. Almost all of his managerial career has been in Scotland, and he now has access to different things that he didn't have before. One is expectation, of course, and he knows that as a Rangers fan, former Rangers player, but he's got access to different types and styles of resources that he didn't have before, facilities, support. And when I say resources, I'm talking more about the training centre and maybe some of the amenities at Ibrox as well, but then access to different funds and budget pools and such like that. And it's going to take a bit of time for him to get used to that. So I don't know that it's a lack of success or a lack of experience. I think it's just a natural step forward. Steven Gerrard never had any experience, and it took him 3 years to win us a title. Walter Smith, my pal Walter Smith, and one of the guys that I've loved the most in terms of my Rangers journey in my life, didn't have that track record of absolute success. Yes, he was the assistant manager when Graham Souness was winning titles. So you just never know what's going to happen. I'm not saying this as an excuse, and I'm not saying this to try and compare him to the Gerrard winning 55 team or to what Walter Smith emulated, but we don't always get the finished article, and very few teams do, to be perfectly honest. And I think the manager appointment has been proven over a number of years now, certainly over the last 15 years, as a managerial appointment. It's just as much of a gamble as a player appointment or player recruitment is, and we're just going to have to see what happens. But it's been an absolute dung box of a start for Derek and his team, and I say the team in its entirety in terms of the first team squad and his managerial team, and he's just going to have to get better. It's as simple as that. He's going to have to figure out a way to win this game by 2 goals on Thursday night and get past St Mirren, and on the weekend win just a win. It doesn't matter what that looks like, and then build on that from there, because he's had a horrendous start and it's just an absolute mess. And I don't know. So one of the things, they talked, obviously there was what do they call it now, the shareholder meeting. It's not an annual general meeting anymore because of our managerial or leadership or ownership structure, and they had that today. Not a lot really talked about there. I didn't really digest any of the notes from the meeting, but I got a general overview of what it was, and they're talking about another, what did Andrew Kavanagh say, 3 to 5 players coming in. All right, just you get a player, you get a player, you get a player. Is it within a structure? I think the short answer to that is no, but it doesn't look like it for right now, because Derek doesn't really know where to put the various players and such. And we're in a situation where I don't know if extra players helps, but Derek has said, there's certain areas that we do need some help in defence and on the wings. And I kind of joked with, who was it now? I think it was my pal Hammy today, saying, because it looks like we've got an agreement to sign the PSV player Kuhaib Bruech. Like a normal name would be nice now and again. And there's another winger to put crosses in that nobody's going to put in the back of the net anyway. It just seems to be that other teams are scoring for us now, not so much us scoring for ourselves. But I don't know. We're going to have to, as I say, we're going to have to win, and it's been a terrible start, and he has to start picking it up. I don't know if Derek McInnes and his team have a Danny Rule-esque opportunity to come in and really go on that run. And just remember, that the mob from the East End had a run of like 8 defeats in 10 games or something like that, to give us that chance to come back. And who knows whether Martin O'Neill's team will have that as well. So 5 points, a lot of points to bring back. And even this early in the season, it's just terrible. And yeah, we're just going to have to see what that looks like. So the game segment, wee bit of a caveat here. I didn't see the games live, and I watched the highlights, read the match reports, and then listened to the various podcasts that I listened to, mostly Heart and Hand, to get an overview of what the games are and such. So they're a wee bit shortened here. I'm back from holiday. Everything is now normal. I'm going to be watching every single game in entirety, and I'll give you a wee bit more in depth of what I think of the games. But the first one, as I mentioned earlier, there was the 2-1 defeat in Poland against Bialystok. I'm not even going to try the first name there. And that was a terrible performance, overall. If you watch the Rangers highlights, it's literally that. It's the Rangers highlights. It's all the good things that we did well. And we did have a number of chances in the second half there, but it didn't show you a lot of the defensive lapses. It didn't show you a lot of the poor passing and a lack of connectivity between each of the 3 major lines and the team and stuff. And it was awful. We got a decent start, an own goal, and then we were just all over the place. And we seemed to, I don't know, this Rangers team right now shouldn't be resting on their laurels until they're 4 goals up. And I don't see us going 4 goals up against anybody the way that we've been playing thus far, because this getting a goal and then just kind of chilling out and assuming something else is going to happen, or assume that some sort of psychological and physical damage has been done to the other team, doesn't work like that. Rangers are too much of a soft target right now, and this team just kept going and kept going and kept going, and of course we ended up losing the game. And I think we got what we deserved based on the way that we played. It was lazy. It felt like a lazy performance, and it's just not good enough. The positives, I think, I'm going to say this with a bit of a caveat. I think the positive was the fact that it's only 2-1 after the first leg, and not that it was a battering and they had chance after chance, and we, our goalie had one of those worldy games, or there was, off the post or bad misses or anything like that. I didn't feel like that. Really, for me, it was more, they did have chances. I'm not saying they didn't, but we just didn't deserve much from the game. I didn't think so. To take a 2-1 victory, a 2-1 defeat back to Ibrox is a great thing. Then you have what happened against Hibs, and then you're kind of like, well, who knows what's going to happen here. But the defence needs to get better, and we did create those chances that I talked about in the highlights package there, especially in the second half. And if it wasn't for the post and some good saves, we'd have come back with a bit of a different result. And it's going to take one of these results that's, before you know it, you're going to be like, geez, that was actually the turning point. We didn't realise that. And then we went on this run. But for right now, the run is going down the way and not going up the way. So in terms of the negatives, I think the overall performance, that was a terrible performance, a really, really bad performance. And we've seen this sort of stuff before, haven't we? And the good thing is that we've got lots of the season left. The bad thing is there's lots to play for at this very, very early stage of the season in the league, and in the domestic game, I should say, maybe even more expansively, and in Europe. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of us had said in the beginning, a lot of people had said out there, forget about Europe, concentrate domestically. But we want to do well in Europe because that's a great opportunity for us to continue to test our wares, to get more games together as a team as we continue to gel and bond, and also the financial benefits of being there. It gives us that chance to boost the coffers a wee bit as well, and I'm sure it was part of the budget too, so we can't completely write it off. But the team that he put out there, McInnes, seemed to be a team that was looking forward to Hibs, and as it turns out, it didn't really matter anyway. So who knows? It was a bit of a shambles, to be perfectly honest. In terms of the stats, the Rangers website didn't have any stats. It said we had 50% possession, and then there was nothing else. The Rangers website is a bit sleepy at the beginning of this season. I don't know what they're doing from a communication perspective, but the areas that I look at quite a lot, there's not a lot of updates being done. I mentioned this last week. If you listen to last week's pod, I don't like the fact that we go dark. I think there certainly should be some sort of strategic, what would you say, strategic respect shown in terms of the communications. Don't do a kit launch, or don't do some sort of I am asking you for money as a Rangers fan from the club in the aftermath of a defeat. But don't just go completely dark and there's nothing in there in terms of the stats, in terms of shots on goal or anything like that. So I was going to go and check live score, and I thought, you've seen enough, or you've heard enough about that game. In terms of the ref watch, I had no real issues with the ref watching that one, so he'll get the 7 out of 10. Yesterday's performance, 2-1 defeat at Hibs. We don't even have an opportunity to say we started off well at Ibrox, and Ibrox is okay, and it's a way that's maybe going to cause us a bit of some sticky moments as the season goes on. We've now lost points home and away, so we're kind of ambidextrous or somewhat flexible. And I can almost say the same about the European game. A terrible first half and much more improved second half. But we've been saying that for years, for seasons. We've been saying we're a one-half team, and sometimes the team was a little bit inconsistent in terms of what half they would play for. But McInnes having to make some fairly significant structural changes to the team at half time means either he's got it wrong or the players have got it wrong, or it's a combination of both, and that doesn't bode well, man. It's very, very inconsiderate. It's very, very haphazard. Maybe that's the best word to use. That said, it was a better performance than it was on Thursday. The team were right up for it. We then get to a situation where one guy on the field, if you watch it back on the replay, one guy on the field has a wee half-hearted, hey ref, but in terms of the penalty I'm talking about here that was given to Hibs in, what was that, 12th minute or something like 10th minute, 12th minute, something, but he's not really shouting for it, not really. And then when you watch the replay, he's got a hold of the Rangers player with both sides of his head, like in his hands, and the two of them just kind of have a coming together, and nobody's shouting for it, nobody's asking for it. There's mass confusion in the stadium, and then Don Robertson, ably abetted by Matthew McDermott in the VAR as the chief VAR officer or chief VAR, referee or whatever they're called. There's 3 referees that have looked at that and said that's a penalty kick with no hesitation. It's John Brown said it at the end of the 2023-24 season. There's some sort of corruption going on here, because that's never a penalty in a million years, especially when you see the one in the second half. Actually, no. Sorry, it was the same half. And then we had one where guy has no attempt to play the ball, guy's nowhere near the ball, takes a Rangers player out, and then the referees will get a clear view of it and just blows it away. Nothing to see here. Rangers have to, McInnes came out and said he didn't agree with the decision, but there has to be more strategic, cute language that's used there from both the club and the manager afterwards to continue to chip away and chip away and chip away. Don Robertson will probably be very, very disappointed with that when he goes back and looks at it out with the heat of the game. Something like that. Keep doing that. Keep on at it. You should have Jim Gillespie on the phone to Willie Collum on a Monday morning saying, going to tell me what this is all about, man. This is no use, and continue to do that. We're not going to get this pendulum shift from this complete bias that referees have against us right now to something a wee bit more fair. But if you continue to just do those wee chips, I'm not saying they're not doing it, but I don't see anything publicly, and I can only go on what I see publicly. But we had some weird substitutions in the game. We're 1-0 down. We get to a situation where we get a late equaliser, and we're pushing, very much pushing. Again, even just watch the highlights. If you're still a wee bit upset about it, just watch the 8-minute, 6-minute, 8-minute highlights that are online on the Rangers YouTube channel. And we had more than enough chances to win that game. They have a breakaway, and they get another. There's a fluke goal at the end. It's a big deflection, big enough deflection. It takes it past Pandora in the goal, and that's 2 freaky, weird goals that we've lost to lose points in the league, and that's material to us. So, if it wasn't for bad luck, we're not getting any luck right now when you consider the injury to Yusuf Chermiti as well, who was starting to kind of look sharp for me, and I'm a big fan of his. I've said that for many pods, of course, through many parts of even last season. And I'm just looking for him to kind of kick into gear, and it doesn't look great when he's immediately calling for a trainer when he's off. There's no incentive for him to do anything when he's off the field, and it just seems to be his studs get caught. There was maybe a bit of contact with the Hibs player, and there's something up with his knee now, so that's Oh my word! So that's our most valuable asset is down, and that's going to mean some other time for the other folks. Defence wasn't quite as bad as it was, but there was still some ropey moments, and we just need to that greed, that absolute thirst, that absolute desire for a clean sheet just doesn't seem to be there for the team for right now, and then we lose a late unfortunate goal because our goalie would have got it if it wasn't deflected, absolutely guaranteed. And I would be here saying 2 points out of 2 games is not good enough, much better than 1 point out of 2 games. So in terms of the positives, another solid second half. Do that for 2 halves, Derek. Try that for 2 halves, and then I think we'll be in a much better position, certainly a much better spot. Our new signing, Yokota, actually I should have probably mentioned him for the Poland game as well. He's had a very bright start and brings some absolute creativity and energy to the team as well, entertainment, quite frankly, and another good game. So he's got off to a good start. That will probably stand him in very good stead for us. It's not just the Oliver Ant-Man one good game in Europe and then you never see anything decent ever since. He's done it for 2 games in a row, so it's good for him for doing that. And I think the thing is, overall, I kind of jested about it a wee bit in the beginning. Our chance creation is very good. We're just coming up against some very, very, what would you say? I mean, very, very packed defences that are just managing these last minute, last gasp challenges, putting lots of bodies in the way and some finishing that could maybe be a wee bit more clinical, but on other occasions, some of these go in and then we're in a situation where we're talking about, right, okay, that's a bit more like it. So I don't know. I wanted to see, in terms of the negatives, I kind of think it compounds to what I'm saying. We're just not scoring our own goals anyway, and that's certainly not going to get better with Yusuf Chermiti's injury, like I said, and we're just not getting any luck whatsoever. If you look at the Dundee United goal, if you look at the Hibs goal, that's the 2 goals that lost us points, both flukes. The Dundee United guy never meant it, like I mentioned last week, and their goal was a big deflection. And we've got, I know you need to make your own luck, but sometimes it just conspires against you, and we're in a spot right now where it's just a bit of a mess. I think, what's that, Lawrence Shankland he's hit a bar twice now in both of the domestic games, and yes, he's not contributed much certainly by way of goals, but by way of influence and such as well. The whole team is honking, so he's obviously a wee bit limited in what that looks like. But I don't know, kind of starting him on the bench after nominating him as captain, he must have a niggle or something. Who knows what that looks like? But it's not looking good. But we need to start scoring goals. Doesn't matter where they come from. Get Big Fernandez up there again. He was scoring goals for fun from set pieces when he first came in and had a solid run in the team last season. So what's changing, apart from the fact that we have just got a new set piece coach? Maybe they're getting used to each other. Get used to each other while still winning. Why don't we do that, and figure out the short term before we worry too much about the long term? In terms of the stats, 76% possession, 18 shots on goal, with 9 on target and 1 goal, which was an own goal. Tells you all you need to know, really, doesn't it? We are honking in front of goals. I keep using the word honking today. Maybe I'll put that as part of the title. I'll find some honking image that I can put on the YouTube thumbnail or something. But yeah, we're just not getting any return from those in the box and or around the box, apart from, of course, Asgard last weekend with a great goal against Dundee United. Versus, this will be a familiar story. 5 shots on goal, 2 on target. You guessed it, 2 goals, 100% of their on target chances were in the back of the net. We need to get to that level of ruthlessness. In terms of the referee watch, this is going to be super easy. I mentioned it earlier. Don Robertson's an idiot. I've said he's an idiot. I think he's a bad referee. He's ego driven. He's the guy that has the odd exception of a good game, and every other game he is ridiculously bad. This one was even worse with the penalty award and the penalty denial for us, so he's getting a 1 out of 10. Simple as that. You're just a terrible referee, Don, and you should go pick something else to do. I'm pretty sure I've said that before on more than one occasion. Our next games is, of course, Thursday's home tie in the Europa League qualifier. That's a 7:30 UK kickoff. I think I said that I got the time wrong last year. It was last week when I did it from Berlin. I actually don't even think I mentioned the time, because I went back to it and I was like, oh, I didn't even mention it, but I still thought it was 8 o'clock. So I actually missed it because Leo and I were golfing that day. All right. So that's a 7:30 UK kickoff time. So that's 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff, and that's what we want to do. If we get past Bialystok, then we will go into the winners of the playoff between Larne and Iberia Tbilisi, and that will be basically the next week and the following week, because we postponed the St Mirren game. If we don't get past them, we go into the Europa Conference League playoff, and I've already made my feelings quite well known on the Conference League. I won't be jumping to switch on the TV for those games against those teams that we've never heard of. It's palatable at the beginning of the season right now, when we get through qualifiers and such like that. But for that to be our bread and butter this year, I don't know. I'll probably change my mind if we get there. Of course, that's my prerogative to be able to do. And then on the weekend, as I mentioned, we've got St Mirren in the League Cup. That's going to be Sunday with a 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff, 4 p.m. in the UK. This has got the hallmarks of being a turning point for us this week, or it's got the hallmarks of continued misery for us. And I don't know anyone that is super confident going into either of these games, despite them being at Ibrox. If we create the same amount of chances and then just start to finally, put the chances away, then we're going to be in good shape for both games. But I don't have any confidence sitting here right now that that's actually going to be the case. So we're just going to have to see what that looks like. In terms of shout outs, I just wanted to say I got a notification yesterday that ERSA are close. What's that? About 6 weeks away from the ERSA convention this year, and that's going to be in Lanzarote from September 24 to 27. And I was just looking at their website, actually just before recording. Today, 3:27 p.m. my time, that's Mountain Standard Time. And their website is absolutely tremendous. Lovely, lovely website. Done a great job with it. Lots of white space, really, really good use of the imagery and such, and an overview of each of the events as well. So that certainly was a good experience to look at that. It looks like it's going to shape up to be a great event, and the ERSA boys and girls are doing an absolutely brilliant job there. So congratulations and good luck with that. I'll mention that up to and including the time of the event. Back by popular demand, I've got, 2 more weeks of mentioning the Rangers Ladies Lunch, and that's on Friday, the 21st of August. Tickets are £75. I'll tell you what my commitment is to you. I'm going to go check out the Rangers website, or actually the Edmiston House website, and see if it's sold out. If it's sold out, I will not mention it next week. And I'll maybe mention the fact that it's sold out, but I won't mention the rest of it. But it's brought to you by Harrods Beauty, and if you are regular attenders at these, you'll know the great job and the great show that they put on for that. And just a wee bit of a personal one for this week. I would just like to wish all the very best of luck to my love Erin and her 2 daughters, Victoria and Alexis, who are away down to Arizona to see Megan Moroney in concert. If you don't know who Megan Moroney is, she's a country and western singer. I don't know if you say country and western anymore, or if I'm dating myself. She's a country singer here, and she's actually very good, I have to say. And they are away down, I think, is this a Christmas present? I think maybe a Christmas present, but I know it's Alexis's birthday month as well, so it might have been that. I'm not 100% sure. But they flew down. Actually, they just landed not long ago, and they are going to be, what would you say, hosted by the wonderful McWatt family. Now, it's even better for them because the McWatt family are not even there. The McWatt family are letting them use their house while they are sunning themselves. I believe they're in Spain or Portugal right now. I'm not 100% sure where they are, but going and flying back. Alan, when I say the McWatt family, I'm talking about NARSA president, Alan McWatt, of course, and he's headed back over to Glasgow for Thursday's game. I said to him this morning, please don't attend any Rangers games. You're a massive jinx. That's before he told me he actually didn't attend Rangers game yesterday, so maybe he gets a pass for Thursday and see what that looks like. But genuinely, thank you very, very much to Alan and Pauline and Mia for letting Erin and the girls borrow your place for a few days, and an extended thank you to the Campbell family, who have recently moved over to Arizona because they're going to look after the girls when they're down there. Gaynor and Stella are going to the concert as well, so they're all going to, I don't know if they're sitting together actually, I never even asked that, but I have no doubt they're probably going to get together and see each other and spend some time in each other's company in the 100-degree plus Fahrenheit it is down there, not Celsius. So it's very, very warm down there this week. So thank you to both the McWatts and the Campbells for looking after my girls when they're down there. And I can't wait to see you all when you get back on Thursday. In terms of the convention update, nothing material to what I shared last week. We are looking at different properties in different cities and different countries and getting a wee bit more of a feel and flavour. Brian has a spreadsheet now that he's populating essentially on almost a daily basis, saying this is the location, this is how far it is from the airport, these are the amenities, this is the cost per room night, these are the costs of the alcohol and things like that. We don't quite actually typically get to the alcohol negotiation stage until we're actually in genuine negotiations. We're just doing some preliminary pricing for right now, so we're definitely getting there. And as I kind of mentioned maybe last week or maybe the week before, I think it might have been, that we're looking, if we could have something really discernible to share by the end of this month, that would be us in good shape to have a right good 9 or 10 months of solid planning in terms of VIP guests, in terms of what the itinerary is going to look like, what size of event we're actually planning to have, and then figuring it out from there. So yeah, nothing more to share in terms of discernible updates or concrete updates, but please know that there is a lot of work happening in the background and we are in constant contact, and every place that I've had the opportunity to take a peek at in terms of the information that's been flowing in, we would have an absolute blast in every single one of these places. So I don't have any fears that we're going to select something that's going to be very appropriate and then it's going to give everybody an opportunity to do something a wee bit different and in terms of location, and give us an opportunity to create more experience and more memories. And maybe Derek and his team turn that around and we have some silverware there. Doesn't feel like that's going to happen right now, but you never know. Who knows what that's going to look like. In terms of communication, I did say last week I was getting a wee bit annoyed, and I mentioned this briefly earlier today, that the communication it's been a bit of a meh start to the communications from our Rangers side, and I should actually write to them and say, hey guys, what's going on here? I rely on this and I communicate this out, and plus I like to see the club do well in the communication front. But the Gers guide, I lamented last week that they just didn't produce it. They produced it on Tuesday for some reason. So if they're going to continue to do that on a Tuesday, that's great, because there was no Gers guide prior to me recording today. So there's nothing for me to tell you in terms of what's happening. So I'm going to guess, like I did last week, the press conference for Thursday's game will be on Wednesday, and it will no doubt be, I imagine, Derek McInnes and probably Lawrence Shankland that will come out. Who knows what that looks like. And then for Sunday's game, there might be a presser on Friday. Maybe it's going to be Saturday, and then we'll see what that looks like. Other than that, the other discernible thing that's happening is that the Rangers women's team start their quest for, what would that be? An opportunity to win the title for the first time in 3 seasons, would that be? Having been pipped at the post in both of the last 2 seasons on the very last game of the season. So they are away to Montrose on Sunday with a 1 p.m. kickoff time. And in the last week, the Rangers women's team had a bit of a, up and down week in the Champions League qualifiers that I mentioned. They had a great win against, I think it was actually away as well. Forgive me. Once again, it's not on the Rangers website, so I have to kind of guess, go from memory in terms of the updates that I was looking at on Live Score at the time. But I think they were away to Slavia Prague, and last week took it to extra time and won 2-1 in extra time, and then played Ajax on Saturday night at, I think it was Petershill Park actually, and had a very narrow 2-1 defeat, equalised with about 2 or 3 minutes to go, and then looked like it was going to go to extra time, and then you never know what's going to happen there, and then Ajax got a penalty and put that away in injury time of the game. So that's the women's team's Champions League qualification hopes dashed once again. I think at the similar stage, or maybe it was even earlier last year, I can't remember, but not getting to the Champions League for the men and the women is very material in terms of funds and in terms of overall ambition for both of the teams, I have to say. So very, very unlucky for Leanne Crichton's team there. Unfortunate, but hopefully that bodes them well in terms of competitive games prior to the start of the domestic season, and they got off to a flyer and then just don't look back and just do the Bill Struth we welcome the chase. That would be much, much better than what we endured with them last year. And just interestingly, from another communication perspective, I did notice on the Rangers website there last week that Rangers have appointed the assistant head coach of the women's first team, and that is Colin Crichton. And you might recognise that name because Colin is Leanne's brother, and he was there a wee bit earlier in the season. I think earlier last season. I think he joined just before the split and was contributing, and he's now been confirmed as the assistant head coach full time. They are replacing the departed Andy Thompson, who had left for Hearts earlier in the summer. So brother and sister doing what they can do. Hopefully that bodes well. They seem they talk very highly of each other and the skill set and such, but that would make for some interesting Sunday dinners or Christmas dinners or such. You know, if the team aren't doing that well, the parents would be like, what are you two up to? What are you doing? Or if they're going well, it would be like, oh, my son and daughter, and maybe if there are any other siblings there, they'll just get completely ignored because they're not successful, obviously, as the coaches at Rangers. So congratulations to Colin, and I hope that really helps kick on the women's team for the remainder of the season. The fan advisory board minutes of the recent meeting with the club were published just on a weekend. I was hoping to give you a wee synopsis today. If you haven't actually had a chance to read them, I didn't get time to do it today. We got back about 5 o'clock last night, and then it was laundry and getting organised and trying to keep myself awake so that I could go to bed at a normal time so that I wouldn't be absolutely shattered today. And I think I managed to do that because I feel really, really good despite the 9-hour time difference between Berlin and here. And we'll see what that looks like. And just another thing, you've probably heard that already, but you did see that in light of Don Robertson getting a 1 today, one of the great things from an integrity of referees perspective is that they decided to scrap the key match incident panel after 2 years. You know, that panel that afterwards said, yeah, that was a terrible mistake, a la that mob penalty at Motherwell towards the end of the season that helped them win the title, was the catalyst for them essentially winning the title. That has now been disbanded because it wasn't working. It seemed to be working. You know, what wasn't working was that nobody seemed to be learning the lessons. You know, you can do a lessons learned exercise. I'm a project manager. We do lessons learned all the time. And I always say to people, I say this in my classes specifically, if you're not going to actually learn any lessons, you're just going to say stuff and you're just going to write stuff down, and there's no genuine lesson that you're going to create an action plan to lean into and learn the lesson and get better from, don't bother doing lessons learned. And maybe that's it. Maybe they're just saying, this is just another admin overhead. We don't need this hassle. We'll just move on and do something else. But the timing of that could not be much worse for you folks at the SFA. You guys are a joke right now. I have to say that, and I'd love to be in support of you. I genuinely would say, and I can see why you would give it and all that. Nope, not right now. You need to be better. You need to do much better. One last thing from a communications perspective, our communication guru at NARSA is back in Scotland, driving around all over the place, is my understanding. So we're going to communicate just a wee bit differently. I'm on point for everything. I think I need to put it on the socials, and I need to... I don't have access to the email. I'll maybe try and contact them and see if I can get access to the email and get that out there as well. So there may be kind of, what would you say, a wee bit more diluted communications. I can certainly get it on Facebook, and Facebook automatically puts it to Instagram, I think. So we'll get that out there. But hopefully if you've already liked and subscribed, you will have access to that on the podcast platform if you listen to audio, or you'll certainly have it on YouTube if you're listening to it, watching and listening to it on video. So a wee bit different for this week and next week, and then we fully get back to normal as we ease into September and beyond, and then we'll be in a good groove at that point. Hopefully the team will be too. All right, my friends, that's enough for this week. Sorry our team are not doing what we want them to do. Hopefully this galvanizes us and makes us stronger for the future. But thank you as always for taking the time to tune in. Please do share it with someone that you think might enjoy it. And until next week, I think I'm almost going to repeat myself. It's a massive week for the club. We need that European progression. We need that League Cup progression as well to give us something to build on from this early dodgy part of the season. And nothing less than 2 appropriate wins this week. Derek and team, please, will do. Until next week, please do take care of yourself and all the very best, okay? Follow.